Hello, travelers. Welcome to our continuing series documenting our trip to the Baltic Sea in September of 2018. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, there are links to all of those in the description section right below this video box. If you are caught up, then we continue our story as we pull into Helsinki, Finland. We hope you enjoy it. Okay, so good morning. Welcome to Helsinki, Finland. Today we had a scheduled ride to get off the boat at 9:45. So what does that mean? We get to sleep in. So we got to sleep for about 8.5 hours, which was very refreshing. So I'm gonna go throw some groceries down my neck real quick, and then we're meeting at 9:30 in the atrium and catch a ride into the city. In order to get off the boat and get a ride into town, Norwegian furnished us with these transfer documents, which you were supposed to pick up at the guest services desk the night before. Dane and I had ours, but Aunt Fredi and Margaret didn't have transfers of their own, so we weren't sure how we were going to handle getting the four of us into town. Morning, ladies.
Good morning.
You guys are just going to get off the boat and we're going to try and find some transportation? Is that what we're doing?
Let's go off and see what happens.
Okay. We always stop and read these signs with return times on them because you really don't want to come back to the port and find your boat missing. As we left the ship, we approached one of the transfer buses and thought that we would ask the driver how Aunt Fredi and Margaret could go about getting a ride into town. But as we got on the bus, we found that this guy couldn't have cared less about any transfer papers. He didn't collect anything. For all I know, I still have mine. What we did get as we boarded was a helpful map, which we checked out as we made our way into town. We arrived at the bus station near the city center and then realized that we had no idea of what we were going to do. But as we got off our transfer bus, we found a sign showing a bus tour that would give a tour of the city for a decent price. But the next tour wasn't leaving for about an hour, so we had a little time to kill. As we stood in the parking lot, we saw a brick building with a lot of people going in and out of it. Dana suggested we head in there because she was looking for a restroom. As we wandered inside, our jaws dropped. It turns out that we had accidentally stumbled across Market Square. This simple brick building was some sort of massive indoor food mall. It was about 100 yards long and contained booth after booth of shops selling almost every kind of food.
So we're in Helsinki, Finland, and we are in this huge warehouse, but it's all open. There's seating on both sides. There's another aisle over here that's like a big huge circle.
As we walked around, we found butchers, bakeries, booths selling soups, wine, coffee, sandwiches, cheeses, and then you'd get to the end of the building, turn the corner, and find another 100 yards of booths heading back in the opposite direction. We eventually did find the bathroom, which was not much more than a small closet. We bought a couple of tasty snacks before heading back out into the parking lot to catch our tour bus. The bus was actually pretty nice, and we were able to find a table upstairs where we could all sit together.
October we usually get our first snow. We have a saying about weather in Finland. We say that we have 9 months of winter and that for 3 months of the year we are waiting for summer to come.
We drove through town with our comical tour guide, pointing out various places of interest. Our first actual stop was the Helsinki Olympic Stadium.
This was the site of the 1952 Summer Olympic Games. The stadium is currently undergoing major renovations, started in the spring of 2016, with a target date to reopen sometime in late 2019. Next, we drove a short distance to Sibelius Park to see the monument dedicated to Finnish composer Jean Sibelius. The actual name of the 1967 statue is Passio Musicae. It is constructed of over 600 hollow steel pipes. It's funny, when we were in Amsterdam and Berlin, we saw Mercedes taxis, but here in Helsinki, they're Beamers.
You like it here?
Yes, very much. Yes.
As I began walking back to the bus, I found Dana buying some extremely fresh juice from a vendor in the park.
It's applecini.
Applecini.
Applecini is orange.
Applecini is orange.
Applecini is orange in Finnish.
Woo, I like that.
Tastes like applecini?
Absolutely.
Or orange juice.
Oh no, you can taste the pomegranate. And the pomegranate has the juice. It doesn't have the rind.
Yeah, I mean, that you can't be more fresh squeezed than that. Next, we were headed off to one of the most famous sites in Helsinki, Temppeliaukio Church, also known as the Rock Church. Opened in 1969, this church was excavated and carved out of solid granite. Apparently, the inside is a sight to behold, but there was some kind of confusion when we tried to get in. I could see our tour guide getting into a slightly heated argument with someone. As it turns out, there was a private funeral going on inside the church, and it was closed to the public. But the church hadn't bothered to offer any of this information to the local tour companies, and they were all a little annoyed. Fortunately, Darren and Kelly had made their way over to the church earlier in the day and captured their own footage inside the church on Darren's cell phone. If you remember back from day 5 of this trip, I ran across a barbershop sextet performing in a hallway on board the ship and said that we would see these folks again. Well, here they were. The reason that Kelly has this shocked look on her face is because they were singing Darren and her song. The two of them had been singing this very song to each other all week long on the boat, and to walk into this rock church and have somebody sing it back to them must have been pretty mind-numbing. After the barbershop group had finished and moved on, a piano master stepped up to the Steinway and began giving an impromptu concert. I can't believe we missed all of this. Right before we left this area, I looked up on the roof of the church and saw a couple of tourists making their way across the rocky roof, right next to the sign that said, "No climbing."
Don't walk on the rocks. It's slippery, this up. You're gonna die.
At this point, it was about 1 in the afternoon, and we had been in the city for a little over 2 hours. We were headed back to the bus station area where we began when Dana asked our guide if there was a Hard Rock Cafe in town. He told her that there was, and that it wasn't too far from where we got on the bus. He told us that the closest stop to it was at the Senate Square. So we arrived at Senate Square and got off the bus right in front of the statue of Emperor Alexander II. The Hard Rock Cafe is located about 5 blocks west of the square, so we began heading down the boulevard in that direction. It took us less than 15 minutes to walk to the Hard Rock, and we went inside where Dana bought a baseball cap. Then we ventured upstairs to see what the restaurant looked like. They had a bar at one end of the building and a stage at the other. They also had the typical memorabilia that you see inside Hard Rock cafes. This is Izzy's guitar from Guns N' Roses, and here's a mask made from the face of Michael Jackson. We left the cafe after about 20 minutes and decided that we were ready to head back to the ship, since we needed to be back on the boat in a couple of hours anyway. We made our way back to the bus depot and took a last pass through the market square before finding a bus at the station already waiting for us. We got back on the boat about an hour before last call and went back to our room to take a nap. In the evening, we were going to go to dinner with Darren, Kelly, Vern, and Carla at Shanghai's Noodle Bar. Dana used this touchscreen kiosk in an attempt to get us a reservation, but it only allowed you to get a reservation for up to 5 people.
I just need to go down there.
Reservation list.
Instead, I went ahead and put our name in, and we waited about half an hour before our table was ready.
Let's give it to this gentleman right here. Fill this thing out. Would they give you like a golf pencil?
So we're sitting at the table after putting in our order, and our drinks arrived. Now, I had ordered like a martini version of a Mai Tai. It had orange juice, grenadine rum, and something else. What is that?
Lychee.
It's a what?
A lychee.
What is a lychee?
A lychee.
Yeah, that's not true.
It's a type of fruit. You know what it is?
It's not. That's fake. You're making that up.
It's a fruit.
It's not a fruit. That's like a cotton ball.
Bacon fat.
You eat that.
I'm guessing it was
Aaron is eating 2 of them.
That looks like one of those things they eat on Survivor. You know, one of those. Yeah, I want to see her do it. If she survives, I'll eat
I
mine.
won't eat it. Hang on. All right. You guys know I won't die.
She's gonna die. She's gonna die right here on camera.
What does it taste like? It's sweet because it's been sitting in this drink.
What is it?
It's like something chewy.
No, it's one of those maggots they eat on Survivor.
Like it's kind of like a shrimp.
What do they call those? The larva.
That's why I was thinking it's almost like a shrimp consistency.
Because that's what I want in my cocktail. I really want a shrimp.
Well, there is such a thing as a shrimp cocktail.
But it doesn't. It's not in pineapple
No,
juice.
I know, but I'm saying it's like the consistency of eating a shrimp. But I don't know what the hell it is, but I just ate it and I haven't died yet.
So remember the stuff that Bear Grylls used to eat on his show?
In Thailand, it's called a rambutan, or in Thai, nga. And yeah. And it's a fruit that is red and like with these things sticking out, fuzzy, prickly things.
God, your nose is growing.
Oh, I'm serious.
He's been to Thailand. He knows.
With the little pokey thing sticking out, it's red, and you peel it, and it's got this grape-like flesh.
So it's kind of like shrimp or grape.
It's a
He
grub.
knows what he's talking about.
Shrimp or grape?
It's a grub.
It's a grub. It is actually a grub.
Decaying wood matter.
Okay, I'm gonna eat the grub.
Okay, eat the grub.
Oh, it's awful.
What? No, it's not awful. What do you mean?
Tastes like a mushroom.
Oh, see, there's yet another consistency.
He's a member of the club. Mushrooms.
But it doesn't taste like anything, or it tastes like a drink. It's a drink, but yeah.
Never did find out what that thing was. We had a couple more plans after dinner.
Time for the ice bar.
The first order of business was our reservation at the Ice Bar. If you ever want to visit this place, you should make a reservation early in the week because they have limited amount of space in the small room and it is very popular. Once you've checked in, you go over to the coat rack and grab one of the warm ponchos that you will be wearing inside. They do have hoods, but many of us had brought along gloves and beanie caps for our heads. Jeff, who is very much a shorts and flip-flops guy, apparently didn't get the memo that we were basically going to go stand in a freezer for about half an hour. I don't think he understands Ice Bar. How cold is it going to be?
It's at minus 15 degrees Celsius.
You'll be Celsius.
You're gonna need some NyQuil, man.
You all look crazy. The 12 of us headed into the 17-degree Fahrenheit bar at about 20 to 9 and immediately got slapped in the face with the ice-cold air. As I looked around the room, I noticed a New York theme with an image of the Statue of Liberty carved inside a block of ice. Not really sure how they do that. And a throne shaped like the Brooklyn Bridge that you could sit on. All of the drinks also had New York-themed names. 7 unique drinks were available, 2 of them non-alcoholic, and even the glasses were made out of ice.
Yellow cup, yes.
And do you have one that just has juice with no alcohol in it?
We have two versions without alcohol. We have one that is a Coney Island, this orange juice with ice cream mix, and we have the Lady Liberty, which is strawberry, pineapple, and lemon.
Let's do that first one. So the first one and then the taxi cab or whatever it's called. Yellow cab. I had the yellow cab, which was vodka, peach liqueur, and orange juice. And Dana had the Coney Island, which was orange juice, milk, and vanilla ice cream. I got you something special, Dana. Here, give it a taste, eh?
That's good.
It's fruit juice and ice cream. We stayed in this frozen wonderland for nearly half an hour, and eventually we did get used to the cold. We were pretty layered up. Excellent. Thank you. Is that the blue carousel? Is that what that? And after a couple of drinks, things started to get a little crazy. Jeff and Vern, of course, had to behave like children. And eventually, Carla performed her version of moonwalking on the slippery floor as Vern filmed it.
Ready?
Go! Check out my mom, everyone! Yes, you're in the club! Dana's in the club! Dana's in the club!
Thank you. We left the ice bar at a little after 9 because now we needed to hurry on over to the Breakaway Theater where we were going to see the Breakaway's production of Rock of Ages. Oh, it's so hot! Oh my God, it's like a furnace out here, Fox. How do you people stand it? This entertaining yet slightly raunchy show had a cute story and tons of great sing-along 80s music. After a pretty full day in Finland, we headed off to bed at about 11:15.
If you'd like to book this trip or anything like it, please call Dapple Destinations at the number on your screen. And if you have any questions, please enter them in the comment section below. And as always, please like and subscribe to our channel by clicking our little picture here on the side. And we'll see you next time.